It's the eCommerce Master Plan Podcast, here to help you grow your e-commerce business faster and more efficiently by cutting through the hype to bring you inspiration and guidance from the e-commerce sector and beyond. Here's your host, Chloe Thomas.
Hello, Master Plan World. Welcome to our latest podcast. It is, as always, a pleasure to have you listening. Let me introduce you to today's special guest. Hilary Fletcher, until very recently, was co-owner of ECCO Shoes Oxford. ECCO Oxford has been a bricks and clicks e-commerce business selling the ECCO Shoes range since 2002. Originally selling from one store in Oxford and online via their own website, having dabbled in Amazon and eBay. Hilary and her business partner and husband Harry have recently sold ECCO Oxford to the overall ECCO partner company and are currently consulting to take the e-commerce side of ECCO from a single store to a true omni-channel business with 42 stores nationwide. Hi Hilary, I've just given our listeners a very quick overview of you and your business and where you are now. So how did you get started in e-commerce?
All right. Good morning, Chloe. I guess really we were early adopters. It was around 2000 and we had just reopened the shop, having had a shop fit. And one of the marketeers for the brand said, have we got an email address? Getting an email address led to a domain. Getting a domain meant going to e-commerce. And our first platform was actually through a shopping mall run by Oxford Newsquest, which is the news and media group.
Wow.
So an interesting story for a start.
Yeah.
We then obviously moved from malls into different e-commerce platforms, but I believe you're going to cover a bit more about that later.
Yeah, we will. So you started off as a traditional shopkeeper and ended up by, kind of almost a process of osmosis, getting into the whole e-commerce piece.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, certainly we'd been retailing. We have retailed for 26 years, and when the opportunity of e-commerce came up, I'm not even convinced it was called e-commerce then, we decided that it was an opportunity that should be evaluated. Having said that, being the first people in the UK to sell ECCO shoes online, other than Zappos, I think, who at the time were an American brand and sold in the UK as well, we've obviously seen evolution of a massive industry, and with it, we've had because of being early adopters, we've probably felt slightly snowplowish, pushing our way through what the company brand thinks of e-commerce. It was one of those things they felt would probably disappear if they left it long enough. We've then obviously kept going with what we've done. So we were the first ECCO franchise. We were the first online. We understood about protecting that space. And it's really been in the last 5 or 6 years that we've had the most competition online.
Yeah, it's amazing how this e-commerce space has changed over actually what's quite a short kind of 10, 15 year period from being, something which we didn't really even have a name for to something where the competition is starting to evolve. And it's really still I think it's really still an industry in its infancy. So given the recent sale and the change of the situation for you and everything is incredibly recent, what we're going to do, and it's just listeners so you know what we're up to here, is Hilary's going to talk about ECCO from the perspective of before the sale happened. Otherwise, we'll be going into all kinds of random areas. So we thought we'd roll back a couple of months so we can really learn those great e-commerce insights from Hilary with her great experience. So Hilary, tell us a little bit about the ECCO Oxford e-commerce business.
Okay, so ECCO, as you may or may not know, is a Danish shoe brand. They are manufacturers and they manufacture throughout the world. They also have global presence throughout the world with their stores and also not necessarily ECCO-owned e-commerce businesses. The product has been around for over 40 years in the UK and is very much based on comfortable, casual with styling. So there's a lot of Scandinavian influences, but they have decided to go into much more formal type product. They're also very, very strong in the golf shoe market.
And you're UK based, selling to which countries?
99% of our sales are in the UK. We do sell to Europe. We don't sell beyond that.
Okay. And you're currently on a bespoke platform, would that be right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We've had pains and gains, if you like, with different web developments. I think we probably, as early adopters, went through several of the e-commerce individuals that probably didn't know very much about e-commerce when they thought it would be a good thing to write programs. And the other platforms out there were not particularly designed for bricks and clicks. And I think this, from a business point of view, we've always wanted to have shared stock and shared systems, and therefore have always wanted bricks and clicks. And certainly over several years, sort of 7 to 5 years ago, when we were looking for e-commerce packages, they were either just totally e-commerce or and there was nothing that we could have that without a lot of money we could adapt to do bricks and clicks and shared stock. So having had some trials and tribulations, which I'm not going to cover, we went for software written on an open source package, which since then we've taken away from it and converted into a bespoke package for us.
Yeah, it is so critical to get that link between the physical store and the online store right, for both from the customer perspective and with the, back office operations, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's one of my biggest learns is that, since even in the last 5 years, since we've been bricks and clicks with our own little niche within Oxford, we've been omni-channel. And because we've developed it omni-channel for one store, then actually the move to where we go next, as in what our knowledge base is for bricks and clicks across many stores, we've already gone through the pains. And I think that that's actually been one of my greatest wins that I can take forward into my future role. Because 5 years ago, people weren't really integrating the two very well. And now the need from the customer point of view is to integrate it seamlessly. And I think the sort of, the terminology, customer single view is what everybody in e-commerce should be adopting. And adapting themselves to deliver that. The customer doesn't care where they bought from, as in physical or online or via a paper catalogue. They just care that they get the product that they want in the service manner that they want, and the backup service as well, I feel, is incredibly important.
I think you're right. It's when you're saying, is it adoption or is it adaption? And I think a lot of the times in the industry we talk about, we need to adopt this omni-channel single customer view, but actually I think adaption's a better word for it, because adoption sounds like you click your fingers and it's there, whereas actually the work it takes, because it's not just about the tech, it's not just about the systems and the processes, it's about the people and the HR and every aspect of your business.
Yeah.
I think maybe we should make a play for making adaption the word rather than adoption.
Yeah. Maybe a slip up of my tongue just then is actually the words that you're talking about. From even typical retail, you're talking about, if you start getting returns in store managers are going to get upset, KPIs are going to be all over the place. Well, hey, change the KPIs that you collect. And I think if you adapt to what the customer wants and adopt the policies of look at your KPIs according to actually the business model that the customer deserves, then actually it's a better way than actually just making everything very, very complicated for businesses.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be too complex, does it? There's always ways of making it easy to do. So within your website, etc., have you got any kind of key widgets, plugins that you're using, like merchandising, reviews, email software?
We don't, I mean, merchandising and external reviews, like Trustpilot or FIFA or whatever are certainly on my radar. And merchandising, again, I've been looking at, a couple of different options, which I can tell you the ones I've been looking at if you're interested.
Well, it's good to share names because I know that the listeners are scribbling out there.
Okay, so I'm looking at Attract, which has a QT at the end, and I'm looking at SLI Systems. For the merchandising. With reviews, I'm looking at FIFO and I'm looking at, I said it earlier.
You said Trustpilot earlier.
Trustpilot's the one. But I mean, my key widget, if you like, is what we've built internally, which is the APIs that take the data from our order management system into a separate CRM system, which does our automated marketing.
And which system is that you're using?
So we're using Infusionsoft. We probably will move away from it in the next year, though I'm not completely convinced of who we'll move to at this minute. Again, it's somewhere where the growth industry for a proper CRM system that absolutely communicates to segmented customer databases is what we're after. And we're already beginning to see the power of the data that we've collected we've been collecting data for 25 years. It did start off with an Excel spreadsheet. It moved on to Access. It then moved on to MailChimp and is now in Infusionsoft. So we have a lot of data. We have buying data for our customers back to 2005.
Wow, that's priceless, isn't it, to have that information?
It is priceless. And we have customers who've bought from us 2 or 3 times a year, every year since 2005. You might be able to count them in under 50, but they're still very valuable customers.
The fact you can count them puts you, ahead of many e-commerce businesses out there. And I also think it's quite interesting what you're saying about the CRM system and that your gut feel is you're going to be moving away from the Infusionsoft platform. And I think that's something I'm hearing a lot of as I speak to e-commerce business people, is that the CRM space is almost the one where the biggest changes are happening. And the way the marketplace looks today, it's going to look totally different in 6 months' time because all the big players are massively raising their game almost month on month with what they've got planned. So it's certainly an area I'd agree, it's worth reviewing that, even though there's a massive workload and complexity in migrating. You've got to make sure you're on that right platform. Okay, I think we've probably covered enough about kind of the stats and the figures and the facts behind the business. So what do you think is the most awesome thing about your business right now?
Right now, the bit having sold it and now being in a space where I am a consultant, which at the moment I'm working towards having time to focus on what opportunities there are that I've learnt with a single brick and click that can be moved to one e-commerce business that services all the customers in the UK connected with 42 stores. So
nice challenge to have.
It's a great big, it's an opportunity. I've also learnt an awful lot of stuff from developing our own platform, and our own platform, as much as we try and work it very much that the consumer, because it's the front end and the administration that we've had written bespoke, although we do lots and lots of customer communication with it and look at how it talks to the customer, we also have made it as simple stupid in the back end as we possibly can, so that it actually workflows. And I'm very much looking forward when we move, and I believe that we're moving to Microsoft DAX, that some of the stuff that I've learned about how pickers and packers, customer service, etc., use a back end of a website can be put into a very, very much bigger, more robust platform. So those are big opportunities and really probably what I've been working for the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's the change in status means that, of your role means you can actually go, right, I don't need to worry so much about the day-to-day. I can look at this big opportunity. What's the right way to take us out to those 42 stores, to take us and combine the whole of the UK onto that one e-commerce platform? Yeah, I think it's going to be a fascinating journey. Yeah.
And also there with bigger budgets, bigger ideals. for the first 15 years of e-commerce, I wanted to dominate. The domination in the UK, I wanted to dominate. I wanted to be the best at selling. We wanted to have a knowledge-based website where people could come, look, build trust, etc. And that, for that, I was building a center of excellence in e-commerce. I'm now able to support the ongoing team with how do we take that center of excellence to actually be the whole of the UK.
And actually saying that bit about the team, what I forgot to say earlier is I always try and ask a couple of questions so as the listeners can get to grips with how many, what size of business you're operating. So what's the size of your team at the moment?
So the total team which includes the shop, is about 15. Not all full-time equivalents, probably about 12 FTEs. It's fluctuating up and down a bit at the moment. Of that, we have a part-time in-house web developer. We outsource IT support. We outsource things like photography for our brochures. We outsource design, printing. We outsource digital marketing. So
cool. So you really focused in on the customer and the product with your team. And what sort of, are you able to share with us kind of a rough turnover number?
Do you want this for e-commerce or for both?
Both would be good, actually, if you're happy to share.
So the turnover is towards 1.5 million, of which 65% is e-commerce.
Excellent. Thank you. It just really helps people just to get in their heads what sort of size business we're talking about here, which is always useful. So given that that you've just gone through this sale process, do you have any tips or recommendations and advice for the listeners who are, because I imagine most of them are out there, we've got this e-commerce business, there's got to be some way out at the end, so we can go and retire or travel the world or something. What would your tips to them be if they're thinking about going down that route?
My thoughts would be, don't be shocked by lawyers' fees. The average sale takes 13 months, so don't be impatient.
Wow.
Find a professional to help with your IM, which is in your information memorandum, which is required by your perspectives. And think of the rules that you do for selling a product. Pitch to what they might want to hear as to why they might want to buy it, rather than why you want to sell it.
That's such a good piece of advice. That kind of comes down to that whole bit of, well, I've been nurturing it for X number of years and this is what's great about it. But it's actually someone else is looking for an opportunity and something you haven't done and all that kind of thing. Cool. Those are really great nuggets.
Thank you. And my pitch when we sold it, obviously we sold it back to the brand. We were franchisees. We had to go to them first. They were difficult buyers, if I'm honest. Bearing in mind they knew the product, they were looking at what they were buying, as in the business model and expertise. And my pitch was all about we as ECCO Oxford, with one single store and e-commerce, cannot be offering what the customer is now asking for, which is omni-channel. But we have the knowledge and resources to assist you to take you to that level if that's where you want to go.
Yeah, you would think that would be the easy sale, selling it back to the parent company, but actually it's not. It's not. Never assume, I suppose, is what we're saying, is it?
We also had 3 days of due diligence. So just be prepared that buyers, buyers want information. They're absolutely looking at, are you worth what you say you want for your business? So there we go. Hope those are good bits of advice.
Definitely. They certainly are, I think. So what's on your radar and to-do list right now?
I think survive the next few months of transition. The shop is being the shop is now under a retail operations manager and is being run like other ECCO stores in the UK. The e-commerce business has now got we've got a consultant e-commerce manager in who is working part-time together with me to learn what we've got and to support the quick wins for the parent company, but also assisting with the long-term strategy of movement to bigger platform that also services stores. So the Microsoft Dynamics AX, which I refer to as DAX. And I think that, those are my sort of immediate things. As previous business owner, I still have nurturing of the team as they feel wobbly. We've had a few resignations, so it's important to make sure that you're recruiting the right type of people to fit with no longer a family-owned business. And it's really just support and making sure that things actually don't fall down in the interim bit. I'm a bit of a monitoring freak, and I've got a document called Monitoring Change that is shared with sales floor team and e-commerce team and at manager level, and also the people higher up in offices, very much so that actually we say it's not changed unless it's on this document. And I think that kind of approach is very important, because otherwise everybody thinks everything's changed.
Yeah. What sort of, because I know people are thinking that's a genius idea. What sort of things go on that? Is it, like high level, like product hasn't changed, team contracts hasn't changed, or is it kind of values and how nitty gritty are you getting?
It's absolutely basic stuff. Payroll was sent to X, now sent to Y. Payroll date was this month now, was this date. So it's payroll. It's about uniform. It's about suppliers. It's the real nitty gritty stuff. We've had 2 months of trying to change the PDQ and the bank in the store. And the PDQ and the bank in the store has changed, that it's now owned by the parent company, but all the Sage Pay and payments by Amazon, which we take for e-commerce, are still going into my bank account. The previous business bank account.
I was going to say, well done.
That would have been a real win. So it's that kind of nitty gritty is actually, if it's not on that document, it hasn't changed. Because otherwise we're finding people were doing the way they'd always done stuff. And we'd say, why? And they'd say, because I can. And we're saying, no, I'm sorry. Please keep some things as normal.
Yeah, we don't have to change everything yet.
Nope.
I think listening to it, what's quite interesting is your answer to that kind of what's on your to-do list at the moment. It sounds very much like someone who's just bought a company and is working out how to take it forward. It's quite interesting because it's all about managing the change, reassuring the team, bringing people on, reassessing everything, how we take it to the next level. And I think that's quite, I think you've done incredibly well to be enlightened, to have got your head from the I'm trying to sell it mode, very quickly turned around into that, right, new world order. How do we take it to the next level? How do we deliver on what my now employer, from the consulting perspective, wants us to achieve? And I think that's something which, I know you haven't explicitly mentioned it, but I think everyone can learn a lot from, which is if you're going through that sale process, and generally if someone's sold their business, they've got to stick around for a while, some kind of earn out, is you've got to leave the old world behind and you've got to move into that new brain pattern, that new way of working. Thank you for sharing that. That's really enlightening.
Yeah. There is, just to sort of perhaps bulk that out a bit, there is a bit of, I do have a bit of issue of letting go. By looking at monitoring change and things, it is allowing things to let go. And there also has to be a stage where I say, that's no longer my decision, but only when the right person is in place and they're obviously taking the decisions. So, I've got an extended handover now with this e-commerce manager who's come in, who has got a lot of experience and in fact has worked with yourself, Chloe, which is lovely to hear. When we sit together, there's a massive synergy. I'm very happy with it. At the moment I'm leading him, it won't be too many weeks before he is leading me. And that's the good feel that's there. And I'm losing protectiveness about it all. Some things really just are not my problem anymore, and that's a really good feeling.
Yeah, it's also interesting listening to you talk about it. Is that so much of what you're talking about isn't about the tech. It's not about the end goal. It's about trusting and believing in the people you've got around you and the team you've got around you.
Yeah.
And, that's so important for any business. It's so much easier when you're working with great people who can do the job. But anyway, I'd like us, because time is getting on now.
Yeah, I know. So sorry.
No, it's brilliant. You're giving fantastic advice to our listeners. So I want to move on to the top tips round now. And I love this section because it gives me and our listeners some really quick ideas for taking our business to the next level. Hilary, are you ready for the quick fire top tips?
Yeah, I love these ones.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. So first up, your book top tip. If everyone listening to this podcast agreed to take Friday off and read a book to make their business better, what book would you recommend?
Tony Heish, Delivering Happiness. And it's a book about the history of Zappos, which is an American company now part owned by Amazon that sells shoes. Okay, synergy in shoes. It doesn't matter. It's about actually delivering customer expectation. It's customer centric. I can't even remember when it was written, but not in before the last 5 years. And he writes it. I've also heard people speak who work for Zappos or Zappos, some people call it, and they are all evangelists, if you like that word, but they all live, breathe, speak the brand and the brand identities.
That's a brilliant recommendation.
So absolute must have.
Yeah,
must have.
I think if anyone out there hasn't ever gone and taken a look at the Zappos business model, what they do, their site is well worth a look around to see how they're doing these things and how they're looking after the customers. Okay, next up, Hilary, your traffic top tip. Which marketing method do you either prize above all others or think doesn't get the press it deserves?
I think congruency and consistency over everything you do. And I know, talking to business meetings when I've been to DCA, Direct Commerce Association, and things, people have paper marketing teams, shops that do them something else, e-commerce teams that don't talk to each other. I've been in an area where we can do everything congruently. We can do the same thing online as we do in store. We can time paper mailings to be with e-mailings, and the message is consistent, and the customer wouldn't get confused if there weren't so many ECCO sites. But generally, that would be it's not publicized, but just be consistent with how you talk to your customer.
I think that is such a great way of just amplifying what you get from all those different marketing methods you're already doing.
Yeah.
So your tool top tip, this might be a team collaboration tool, social media plugin, timesheeting, phone app. Is there a cool little widget you use that makes you and your team more efficient day to day?
Social media wise, Hootsuite. From project management, and we've had a lot of projects and we've now got a lot of team members working in different places. We use Teamwork PM, which is a management tool. And we also use Evernote for all our training notes. Be lovely to have one thing that did both Teamwork PM and Evernote, but haven't quite found that niche yet.
Do you know, I don't think it's possible to find one tool that can do both, because I think you'd have to custom build it and then you'd miss out on all the little devs that come along, because no one business's requirements are the same. But yeah, I agree. It would be nice if you could log into one place and it was all there.
Yeah.
So your startup top tip, if you met someone this weekend who is thinking of starting an e-commerce business, what would be your first tip for them?
To define their customer. And if it was product, could they trial the market on Amazon or eBay or both first? I think anybody should be doing that now.
It's interesting. I was chatting to a friend of mine who runs a Shopify website building agency the other day, and we were having exactly this discussion about how many times he has to say to people, just go and take a stall in Camden Market and see if anyone likes your T-shirts. Please, just do that first before you invest £1,000 or something in building the website. Just see if anyone likes it. And actually, in the e-commerce you either you go and take a market stall, or you go and you do the Amazon eBay piece, because that's where the consumers are. Such a good piece of advice.
Yeah, they're both marketplaces.
Yeah.
Camden or Amazon, doesn't matter.
So Master Plan World, you can find the top tips and links to everything else we've been chatting about today by going to ecommercemasterplan.com/echo. I have one final top tips question for you, Hilary, and I know this one's your favourite. So if your business didn't exist, which e-commerce business would you like to be running?
So thought long and hard on this one. Something that Amazon can't compete on, something that isn't perishable, not high fashion. So I would like to run something like the Buckingham Palace shop, official shop. I went to the Highgrove one last night and typed in Highgrove mug, and the first 5 landings with absolutely no pay-per-click said highgrove.com.
That's such a strategic way of looking at it. Can I make sure I've got that right? So something Amazon can't compete with, so they don't have access to the product or the marketplace. Yeah. Not high fashion, because presumably the AOV is too high.
Yeah.
And there was a third one you said.
Not perishable.
Not perishable.
I.e. consumable food. Wasn't interested in food. What
about shortbread? Because it has to be shortbread in the Buckingham Palace shop, surely. Would you allow the shortbread in?
Okay, I think they do sell it. Shortbread could probably go in. They did sell foodstuffs, actually. So yes, maybe you're right on the foodstuffs. But I've just been thinking about, all these ideas, and you just go, oh, Amazon will reduce the price for me and not my margins and all the rest of it. And then the other big spend that you always have is Google AdWords in order to get or one of the search engine AdWords to get your positioning high enough. And I just decided I'd type in Highgrove mug and see what happened.
I think it's brilliant. I think you're right on the perishable front, because a box of shortbread biscuits or fudge is quite different to fruit or veg or ready meals or anything like that.
Yeah.
Hilary, what a fascinating chat. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you today, discovering how you're driving your boutique bricks and clicks e-commerce business. Before we say goodbye, would you like to remind listeners where they can find you and your business on the web and social media?
Absolutely, no problem. So it's ECCO, which is ECCO-shoes.co.uk. Our social media is Facebook, ECCO UK, all one word. Twitter is @ECCO_UK. Pinterest is ECCO Shoes. Anything else?
I think those ones will do, and I will put links to all of those and everything else we've talked today in the show notes. Masterplan World, you can find those at ecommercemasterplan.com/echo, or just go to the website, click on the podcast tab, or use the search box. Hilary, thank you for being on E-commerce Masterplan podcast today and for being so generous sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
Catch you all next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the E-commerce Masterplan podcast. Find out more at ecommercemasterplan.com.